Some people will tell you that if you win the early game, you'll win the entire game. I personally think that you'll win the entire game when you kill the patron, but to each their own. Anyways, today I want to be talking about the best laners in Deadlock. I'm not going to get into specifics of what I think makes a character a good laner. I just basically know I'm ranking these characters on how well I think they'll do from 8 to 10 minutes, like how powerful they are. One thing I do want to bring up before we get into the rankings is the new orbs and the new souls. If you don't know how the old minions worked and the old souls, basically if you last hit a minion, it would drop an orb about like half a second later. Now how they work is that if you last hit a minion or another minion kills it, it will drop an orb and it will be pretty much instant, which means that characters with a slower fire rate have a harder time confirming, meaning that they can be more easily stolen from. So that is something I'm gonna keep in mind, but it's not gonna be like the deciding factor. I take a lot of things into consideration when ranking these. So let's just jump right into it. Last tier list, I went from A to Z, so we'll just do the opposite this time. So let's start with Yamato. So Yamato is gonna go straight into bully, and here's why. So obviously her shooting is very good. It's very fast, so that means it's good for securing. She has an alternate fire, her right click, which does a lot of damage. It can hit around corners if you're trying to take cover. It's just very powerful late game. It becomes pretty much useless late game, but it's very good for hitting restorative shot, which her left click is also good for doing that. Power slash hurts a lot early game too, but I think one of the most overlooked things on Yamato is that I think she has the highest heavy melee damage in the game, at least early game, which means if you get parried by her early game, you're kind of just dead. Now you might just say, oh, well, like forehead, just don't get parried, don't get meleeed, but things happen, man, and melees are really strong early game. Heavy melees do a ton of damage, and Yamato is just overall a very, very good character right now, so I think she's just a bully laner. Next up is Wraith, which I think Wraith is one of the best characters in the game right now, but in terms of laning, I'll just put her here. I'll put her in good but has counters. So Wraith has a very good fire rate, which is good for confirming. Cards don't do a whole lot early game, and you're not gonna really get online with your gun damage super early, but it's not like you're useless either. You can still do damage if they're kind of just running at you and letting you headshot them. And also her ultimate is very good in a lot of scenarios. Obviously it gets countered by something like Dynamo or Pocket. Anyone that can just kind of ignore her damage or beat for a few seconds is gonna ignore her ult, but it's very good for if you're running away too, if you're engaging. It has a ton of range. You can initiate from far away and has a really low cooldown. So I think once you hit that 3k early game, you'll be able to do things with her, but it's not like she's a bully. She is very strong, but I don't think she's a bully character. Next up is Warden. He can be kind of oppressive once you get slowing hex on him, which every Warden does. If you don't, you're kind of just throwing, but yeah, you get slowing hex and you put it on binding ward and you can make some plays happen, but if people have good movement, you can play around it. A chemical flask isn't that inconvenient. I mean, it gets sort of a stamina, and Warden early game just doesn't have the items to make super good use of his ultimate, which is kind of like, you know, it's a very essential part of his kit. All of that being said though, I don't think he's bad either. He does have decent base gun damage, and overall I think he's just he's a decent character if you know how to pilot him. You know, lane's not going to be free, but you're not going to struggle that much either. He's all right. Next up is Vyper, who I might have put in bad not too long ago, but after playing against her a couple times, I think I'll put her in mid. I think her poison can catch you off guard quite a few times with how much damage it does. I think it does more damage the lower health you are, so that can kind of catch you off guard, and it's an auto lock ability. Everything else about her is just all right. You need to have at least decent movement so you can clear the wave pretty fast and, you know, be able to confirm on all of that. Her DPS early game is decent, but it's nothing crazy. If she gets fed, you'll kind of get ran through and you won't be able to come back from lane. Her ultimate's whatever really, but I don't think she's a bad laner. Maybe in higher play, because I'm only like Phantom 5 or something. I'm not like a pro player or anything, but maybe in higher play she would be in bad, but I think she's decent. Next up we got Viscous, and there's some good Viscous players out there that could probably have him be in very good if you're very good at landing your punches and stuff, but I'm just gonna put him here. He has decent crowd control. His cube is very decent early game. It heals you a lot, but other than cube and punch, he doesn't have that much going for him. Goo ball doesn't do that much damage. His ultimate's not going to be oppressive if he doesn't have the movement items that a lot of Viscouses get, like magic carpet and warpstone and all that, but I certainly don't think he's a bad character. His gun does kind of hurt too. His right click, if you ask me, is kind of bad. It's just Yamato's right click but worse, but Viscous is a solid character. His punch, if abused, can be very good. It can displace people a lot. Next up you have Vindicta, who doesn't get a power spike that early, but she can still do stuff. It's the thing about her is that you can play pretty far back and still be useful. You have stake, which is very powerful pretty much the entire game, but early game it's very good too. You can use it for escaping. Birds I think are a little annoying, but they're not that crazy, and assassinate early game can get you off to a pretty good start if you get a kill with it because of all the bonus souls that you get. I think she's more an annoying than she is good early game, but I think she belongs in this middle row with all the other characters we got here. Next up, I don't think anyone will disagree with me when I say Sinclair is just a bully early game. I actually played him not too long ago just to see how good he is, and there's been times where if I was playing any other character, I'd be like, oh, I can't kill this person. Oh, they have too much health. When you play Sinclair, you get shocked by the amount of damage that you do. Like, oh my god, his assistant, Vexing Bolt early game, it just shreds. Rabbit Hex has a long cooldown early game, but oh my god, it's still so powerful. If you're laning against somebody with a good ult, you get to get their ult. Yeah, his gun damage and his assistant early game are just super strong. And one time I didn't even have a single spirit item yet by like minute 3 or 4, and I was still shredding people. Sinclair, very good character in general right now, but I think he shines the most early game. Like, he's probably by far just the best laner in the game, hands down. And I think if you ask most high-level players, they would agree with that. Next up is Shiv. I don't really know where to put Shiv because I've seen some very good Shivs in lane, but some that are also just, they're not bad with him, they just don't make him do anything. Like the popular Shiv build right now is just knives, decay, stuff like that, which takes a little bit to get online. I'd say I might put him in very good because Slice and Dice does a ton of damage once you get Rage online because it'll proc twice. So you can do like, I think 300 damage or so in like a very quick burst. But I'd say he's in very good, but he's just barely here. I might have put him here depending on if I played him more or played against a better or worse Shiv. He's just gonna stay for very good for now, but I'm open to having him here. Next up is Seven, who is arguably the best character in the game right now, but I don't think anyone would say that he has a crazy good laning phase. His stun can be very annoying. If he just spams it all the time, you can get some decent damage on you, but he's not that crazy early game. The reason Seven is so good right now is because he can farm super well, get really ahead, and then make crazy good use of Power Surge and his ultimate. Those are like the strongest parts of his kit right now. And even things like his stun are just good passively. Like, you don't have to build around it and it'll just be super good. But as a laner, he's all right. I don't think he's bad at all, but I don't think he's super crazy either. Next up, we've got Pocket, Mr. Pocket. Pocket's really good in lane. He's not a bully, but if you know what you're doing, once you get cold front, you just have so much burst damage. It is crazy. I'd say the biggest thing against Pocket in lane is make sure he doesn't get barrage stacks. So when he hits one thing of barrage, he'll get 10% damage amp, and if he hits all 4, that's 40%, and it lasts, I think, 16 or 18 seconds, so he will do a ton of damage if you give him those stacks. In early game, once he gets cold front and he can hit you with Ghost, Briefcase, cold front, you will take so much damage. If he has Infuser, god forbid, dude, oh my god. I don't think he's a bully though, just because he's a little squishy. He has minus 15% spirit resist, just base kit. That's kind of counteracted by cold front because that gives spirit resist for some godforsaken reason. So that's why I don't think he is a bully, but I think he's very good in lane. I think he shines early to mid game and kind of falls off a little bit later in the game, but Affliction will help with that. Next up, also arguably one of the top characters in the game, Paradox. She's gonna go in very good. I don't think she's a bully. Once she gets her ult, she kind of can be, but I think one of the most annoying and strongest aspects about Paradox is her time ult, because when you max out time ult, you get, I think, 2.5 or 3 seconds of silence. I don't remember which it is. So if you put time ult down and you ult someone when time ult is maxed out, they will be completely silenced. But early game, Pulse Bomb doesn't do that much damage. Kinetic Carbine doesn't do that much damage. Her ult's obviously very good. That's why I'm putting her in very good, but she's not a bully. If you can anticipate her ult and kind of just take cover when she's charging Kinetic Carbine, I think you'll be fine. But again, she's still very good. I still think she's a very solid character. Moen Krill is definitely just a bully. Like, there's so much wrong with this character. So just to start things off without even getting into his abilities, he has a spread shot, which has a ton of fire rate. So he's very good at securing and stealing. And also it has one of the highest DPSs early game. Like, Moen Krill has some of the most insane gun damage early game. And I think that is just statistically true. That's not even me being biased. If you sort all the characters by DPS, I think he's one of the highest early game. That might just be the game assuming you hit all the shots, which is probably what it is, but it's not like it's super difficult to hit all 8 bullets at the same time. If you're close range, then the spread isn't that severe and you can land all of them and you will do crazy damage early game. And that's just his auto. He's got Scorn, which will heal him so much. I think it's like 100 if you hit another hero with it. You can also use it on minions. There have been times where I was playing Moen Krill, somebody dives me under tower to go for a greedy kill and I press Scorn, and now I'm at like like 200 or 300 health. Like, I'm completely safe. It is a really, really solid ability. Burrow, if you get level 2, does insane damage. I'm not even kidding. Go into Sandbox, get Burrow to level 2, and then just hit the bot with Burrow and Scorn. It does like 500 damage. I mean, that's assuming you hit all of Burrow, of course, but it does have a knock-up just base kit. So the DPS on that ability, once you get it to level 2, is super insane. Sandblast is obviously amazing for securing and stealing, and it's 3 seconds of a disarm without any items, without any upgrades. It's an amazing ability. And his ultimate, it depends on who you're laning with, how much value you're gonna get out of it. Like a Dynamo, probably not that much. He won't have the damage output to follow up off of it. But if you have like an Infernus, an Abrams, anyone that could just do a ton of damage to somebody standing still, or if you just land headshots in any character, honestly, you will do a ton of damage. You will get 70 permanent health once you kill them with your ult. Krill, I think, is an amazing laner. Who next up? People might call me biased for this, but I think Mirage does not go in bully, and that's only because of how the soul orbs work right now. Mirage is obviously an amazing laner, and I think if they reverted the orb changes, I would put him back up in bully. Obviously, because a Scarab gives you a ton of good sustain. It does a lot of damage, decreases their bullet resist. Tornado is an amazing engage/escape tool. The Jin's Mark is just good for poking, and his ultimate, yeah, he doesn't get a power spike at 3k like pretty much every other character in the game, but Mirage is just that good that doesn't matter. You don't need a crazy good ultimate that you can use in lane. He's just an amazing character. His fire rate is just slow early game, so it kind of makes it hard to confirm and to steal. So I think he's gonna be at the top of this very good tier. He's almost in bully. It's just his slow fire rate kind of holds him back. But yeah, he is an amazing laner. Don't get it twisted. Next up, I honestly think this might be the only character that goes in bad. It's not that McGinnis is a bad laner. Like, she's just a bad character in general right now. She's bad early game. She's bad late game. She's just not a good laner because the character itself is just not good. It's not like her base design can't work early game. The character just sucks right now, and I think most people would agree with this take. Lash can be very good. I'll put him here. I think depending on the Lash player and depending on the matchups, he can be extremely strong early game. But if you're playing against like an Abrams or a Bebop or any character that can punish you for being close, Lash will kind of struggle. Because yeah, if you Grand Slam an Abrams, you're gonna get shoulder charge into a wall. A Bebop, he's gonna hook you, put bomb, punch you. It's gonna hurt. So yeah, if a Lash cannot get close and Ground Slam, he's gonna kind of struggle early game. Obviously, his ult is still very good, but the character does have a lot of bad matchups. So I'll be fair and give him that. Next up is Geist. Essence Bomb does so much damage early game. Obviously, if they have good movement and they're anticipating it, they can dodge it. But if you're on the chase and they're low on stamina or something and you're kind of good at landing it, it does so much damage. Soul Exchange does a lot of damage, so if anyone goes in on you early game, you'll heal a lot and they'll take a ton of damage. Malice is super good. Her ultimate's, it's decent. I don't think it's super crazy, but Essence Bomb and her early game damage is just kind of crazy. And her gun damage hurts a lot early game too. So yeah, she belongs in very good. Mr. Kelvin is gonna go in very good as well. Arctic Beam Infuser does so much damage. His bomb early game heals you for so much. And I think if a Kelvin ults you early game at like 3k or 4k, you can't kill him because you don't have enough money for heal bin yet unless you literally rush it. You don't have toxic bullets and you don't really have the early game damage output to deal with his ult. So I think he's very solid early game. He's not quite a bully, but he's an amazing laner. He does fall off late game to be fair, but he's a very solid laner. Ivy, I almost want to put in bad, but she's not that bad just because I've seen a lot of good Ivies pilot her early game. She just doesn't stand out. She doesn't have crazy damage. Statue or her gargoyle goes on a very long cooldown once you use it, and there's just nothing about her kit that stands out, but she's not a bad laner necessarily like McGinnis is. Infernus, my beloved, is gonna go here. I don't want to be biased because I don't think he's a bad laner. Afterburn is very good at clearing wave. Sometimes it can be kind of an inconvenience because it'll kill a minion when you're reloading, but that's honestly just a skill issue. He gets a very solid power spike when you get Infuser and you get his Flame Dash to level 2, but he's countered by anyone that can stop Flame Dash. Like if you Flame Dash at a Bebop and they have Punch Up, which they can push you away, or they have Hook, which will interrupt it. Abrams has a shoulder charge, 7 has a stun, Vindicta has Stake to make sure that you can't get close to her. Anyone that can just stay away from Flame Dash will do good against Infernus in lane, but he's not a bad laner by any means. I think he belongs in this tier. Just like Mirage, Holliday is gonna go in very good and not bully, only because her fire rate early game kind of sucks. But barrels, you get them to level 2, dude, you will shred people early game and it does a shocking amount of damage. Crack Shot's very good for poke, and her ultimate is amazing at pulling people into tower and just getting those early game picks that you need. Like yeah, Krill ult is very good early game, but Holliday, she can pull you to tower. So even if you're in a decent position, she can push put you in a bad spot very, very quickly. So just an amazing laner. She just has little ammo and very slow fire rate. I think slower than Mirage too. That's the only reason she is not in bully. Haze, much like Vyper, can be a bit oppressive if you feed her, if you let her get ahead. She can be good early game, but for the most part, she's just mid. Fixation doesn't do that much damage. It can hurt if you're letting her get a lot of hits on you. Doesn't hurt that much. Sleep dagger into heavy melee is something that I think is worth some recognition, because she'll sleep dagger you, get close to you, and hit a heavy melee. But if you have a good teammate with you, they'll get close to you and be ready to parry you in case she tries to do that. Haze in general is just very squishy though. I think she only has 500 starting health, which is the lowest in the game. So she's just a mid laner. She's not bad. She's not McGinnis though. Like Haze players will have you thinking she's unusable early game. She is not McGinnis level. She's just mid. Talon's short shot early game is very, very solid. I think he belongs in very good. It lets him keep quite a bit of distance and get poke in. Way better than Vindicta if you ask me. But that's kind of his only thing that he's got going for him early game, which don't get me wrong, is pretty good. But flight, whatever it's called on Talon, I don't remember, doesn't do that much damage. His trap is just a bit inconvenient sometimes. There is something to be said about his ult going into other lanes and helping get picks under tower and getting that permanent magical power or permanent spirit power. So I think he's pretty decent early game. Definitely falls off hard late game unless he's fed and he gets something like Mystic Reverb. But yeah, he's a very, very solid laner. Dynamo, I think, is kind of mid, unless you're building around Kinetic Pulse, in which case he'll probably go here because damn, that thing can hurt. But if you're building like a support Dynamo, you're not gonna be super useful in lane. Quantum Entanglement is just an amazing ability, but it can only carry you so far, you know? And early game, when you don't have your ult upgraded yet or maxed out, you're probably not gonna hit both of the other laners unless their positioning is just that bad. And if you do hit both of them, your ultimate goes on like a 3-minute cooldown. So he's not the best laner, but again, just not as bad as McGinnis, so he will go in mid. Calico's a bully. I don't know if there's much explanation needed. The combo with her right now is just Gloom into Leaping Slash, into Light Melee, into Cold Front, into Ultimate, and that will just kill most characters in the game. Her ultimate's on a pretty short cooldown too. It's a get out of jail free card. Leaping Slash has just insane healing. That's kind of the biggest thing about her right now, is just how much she heals off of that. So it's just complete bully in lane. And obviously her left click, her shooting is very good for securing because of how fast it is in an S spread. So you can easily hit the souls. Bebop, also just a bully. All it takes is one hook for you to win lane, honestly. Because if I'm a bad Bebop and I'm missing like 6 hooks in a row, and then I land one hook, bomb into punch, and then if you punch them into tower, they're just kind of dead. As long as your teammates are competent, Bebop is an extremely strong laner. Even his ultimate, which I think is by far one of the worst parts about his kit and is just almost useless late game, can still do really good damage early game. You can at the very least use it to defend lane. Like if your teammate's dead and they're pushing tower, you can just ult and save tower, like even if you don't get a kill with it. So I think Bebop is a complete lane bully. Last not least though, we got Abrams. This is gonna go in good, but has counters. If he can't get close, he obviously can't really do that much damage. But if you know how to pilot him, his gun damage can hurt even from a medium range. And if you're building something like close quarters, you can do a lot of damage with his gun. If he sneaks to the side and lands a shoulder charge on you and pushes you like towards his teammate, you're kind of just dead. He has natural health regen, which is really good for just staying in lane and sustaining. But I wouldn't say he's very, very good, just because if you can stay far away from him, he can't really do much. He kind of just loses lane. And that was it. Hopefully this one is a bit shorter than the last one. Last one was like 30 minutes long, but I just wanted to make a chill video talking about who I think is the best laner. Let me know if you disagree. Sorry, let me know if you're wrong in the comments, because last video, no one disagreed with me in the comments at all. Everyone was like, wow, Toonster, what a great video. I agree with every single placement on this list. And yeah, that'll be all, everyone. Thank you for watching.